Expectation, reality, are they the same thing? Could they prove to be the same thing? It's certainly something that I think we're going to have to consider over the coming weeks and possibly even months, what our expectations are for who a new manager will be and what the reality of that decision actually could be. Obviously, Stephen Davis takes charge of the team for the next two games on Thursday night in Limassol against Aris Limassol in the Europa League and against St Mirren in Paisley, which will be a tough game with Paisley above us. And it feels weird saying that, doesn't it? You know, going to Paisley, going to play St Mirren and talking about a tough game. But look, the form we're in at the moment, the way we're playing at the moment, you can't help but just say it's going to be tough because at the end of the day, what have we done so far this season that's going to prove it's going to be any other way than that? And you've also got to counteract that with the injury list that it looks very highly doubtful, certainly from what Michael Beale was saying before he was sacked, that any of those players, the Lawrences, Cantwells, Raskins, Danios, etc., will return before the international break. So, look, what we've got is what we've got basically. Dessers, that's it. That's what we've got up front. Seema, those players, Lundstrom. Jack, if he is fit, we don't know yet what situation is with Jack or what the situation is with Ridvan, who both apparently came off injured on Saturday in that debacle against Aberdeen at Ibrox. So we obviously await an update about those. However, let's start off with some positive stuff. Let's start off with some good stuff, shall we? I'm going to talk about managers. I'm going to talk about the next Rangers manager. So hang on for that. That is coming up. I'm going to talk about names that have been mentioned and how, realistically, we might be, as a fan base, aiming too high and why that might be. And it's not being defeatist or negative. It's just where we are realistically in terms of Scotland as a league and Rangers as a team at this moment in time financially. But let's start off by talking about Stephen Davis. Now, Stephen Davis spoke to the media today. Rangers TV, didn't he? And he spoke about becoming Rangers manager on an interim basis. And he talked to, I think one of the biggest things that came across was, what an honour it is that to be given this opportunity. That was what he said. It's a big honour to be given the opportunity. And for someone like Stephen, who is Rangers through and through, someone who, like Stephen, who's achieved so much at the club and has been an absolutely exceptional ambassador, both on and off the pitch for us, I can only sort of try and get inside of his head and try and think of how he's actually thinking and how, it must be like a dream come true for him to be given this job and to be given the opportunity to manage a club that he's played for, a club that he loves. And he talked about the fact that he does want to get into management eventually and what a good opportunity this is for him. And I don't think he's thinking of it in terms of being a great opportunity in terms of, or it could be my job if I do a really good job. I don't think he's thinking like that at all. I think it's probably something more along the lines of it's a good chance to show others exactly what he can bring to the party. And I think, look, Stephen's goes with our best wishes. We wish Stephen all the best. And Alex Ray, who personally I love Alex Ray. He was here for 2 seasons as a player, and I thought he was very underrated in those 2 seasons. He's a physical player, a sort of no nonsense player, and I think he's certainly someone who will bring that to the coaching. And look, arguably that's what some of these players need. Not an arm around their shoulder. They need a rocket up their backsides and a no nonsense approach. And I think Alex Ray will certainly bring that approach. Stephen Davis also spoke about, how it was a little bit of a shock, the phone call and the discussion, but that he was more than up for taking the job. He was more than up for taking the team. And, he just, in terms of preparing them, he wants to get the best out of these players. He said he feels that he's got the added advantage because he knows the players, he knows what they're capable of. He sees them in training every day. So it was, really, it was a very positive interview. And if you haven't checked it out, go on to Rangers TV and check out that interview. And certainly, I think Stephen will come with with the best wishes of all. And I think for me, the players should, without Stephen taking a training session, I'm sure he has taken a training session now. Without Stephen even saying anything to the players about being the interim manager, there should be a respect level there anyway because of what Stephen has achieved at this club. He's a Hall of Famer. He is just an outstanding player, and he has been an outstanding player for Rangers. He commands respect for what he's done in his time with the club. And I think, any player that goes out there and doesn't respond and doesn't respect Stephen needs to give their head a wobble. They really do, because he is just a fantastic person. Scottish Premiership winner in 2008, 2009, 2009, 2010, 2010, 2011, 2020, 21 is part of 55. 3-time Scottish Cup winner, 3-time Scottish League Cup winner, Europa League runner-up twice. He's won PFA Scotland Player of the Year in 2009, 2010. He's been in the PFA Scotland Team of the Year, the Scottish Football Writers Player of the Year. He's been an outstanding player for us, and I think the players should realise that what he's asking them to do is probably what he could do, when he was fully fit and when he was at his prime. So I think there has to be a respect level there. And look, any players that don't respect Stephen, any players that go out there and don't give Stephen of their best and make Stephen look silly, I'm with David Edgar. I'm going in there with a walking stick and battering people, because that's disrespectful to a club legend like Stephen Davis. And I hope that the players will respond well to him over the next couple of games and really give him their best, and perhaps give us fans as well something to really get behind and something to cheer. So Stephen, Alex, we wish you all the very best on Thursday in Limassol, and we wish you all the very best on Saturday in Paisley against St Mirren. Let's win. Let's bring home 2 victories, boys, over the next couple of games. Now, look, as I said on the video earlier, we're going to be linked with every man and his dog and his cat and his goldfish, just like we were in the summer when the Michael Beale rebuild was undergoing. Now, I have said previously that a director of football, a sporting director, is a key appointment for Rangers. And I'm going to stand by that remark. I genuinely do. And I do think that these two, have perhaps got to go and look for a director of football or a sporting director to come in, someone who can kind of bring a football knowledge to the decision. It was interesting to hear Simon Jordan on Talk Sport talking about what Graham Souness had said about how Graham Souness thought that there wasn't a great deal of football understanding within the boardroom. He said there wasn't a lot of football people. And don't get me wrong, look, football people don't always make the best decisions. We know that. Every manager makes duff signings. Michael Beale, quite a few. Every, football person makes mistakes. And even some of the greatest football people will make some of those stupidest mistakes and will give you some of the duffest advice you've ever had in your entire life if you're appointing a new manager. But I do feel there is a need there. And whilst, look, I fully respect that it has to be James Bisgrove and John Bennett's decision, because they will live or die or fall on the sword of this decision, because it is their decision. And if this is another manager that comes in that fails, then realistically it's them that's got to carry the can for it, because they're the guys who appointed them, the same way that Stuart Robertson and Douglas Park have to carry the can for the Michael Beale debacle and the 4-year contract debacle. They're responsible for that mess that they've left us with. Bennett and Bisgrove deserve the right to appoint the manager and deserve the right to have that final say, because at the end of the day it does come down to them. Now, quite whether you respect Graham Souness now and whether you think he's still got his finger on the button when it comes to modern football, I don't know. It is a situation, but people like Souness, people like Coisty, Chris Boyd, like Ian Durant, ex-Rangers men, people who understand the club and understand what it is to be a Rangers player, and with the case of Souness, a Rangers manager. They need to have some kind of input. I think they do need to be consulted to some degree, not a final decision, but advice taken from them as to what that Bennett and Bisgrove need to really look for when they come and appoint this next manager. Now, I think, as I said at the start of the pod, this video this morning, or this afternoon or this evening, depends obviously when you're picking up, I think we have to manage expectancy. Obviously, the Glasgow Rangers Nation is on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. It's on Facebook. It's all over the place. And, I've put up stuff. I put up posts about who would you like the next manager to be, and I've talked about this man, Kevin Muscat. I've talked about this man here, Pascal Janssen, who some of our former Dutch players are pushing for. I've talked about those guys. I've talked about other names that have been linked, and we'll talk about those shortly. But there has to be an expectancy there that that we get this appointment right. And I think Rangers need to set a budget. They need to say, this is our budget, and within this budget, these are the managers we're going after, and this is what we can get for this budget. There is a expectancy, I think, amongst Rangers fans, and I think amongst some fans, an unrealistic expectancy as to who we can get. Now, I've heard names like Marcelo Gallardo, Bielsa, people like that bandied around as being possible managers for Rangers. And look, don't get me wrong, I would love to have manager of the talent of Bielsa, who's crazy as, but is a great manager, or even Gallardo come in. These are guys who are top managers. You know, Bielsa turned Leeds' fortunes around. He got them back in the Premier League. They get rid of him, then they get relegated. You know, he's manager of Uruguay at the moment. Gallardo, you know, he did a good job. But realistically, it's looking at the situation in terms of, number one, can we afford these managers? Look, I would love to go out and get Laws. I'd love to go out and get a top name from Europe. You know, Joachim Low, who's out of job at the moment, the former Germany manager, Hansi Flick, someone like that, who's, you know, real future talent. But realistically, have Rangers got the budget to be able to pay this manager what we're going to have to pay him to secure him? Now, Gallardo, for example, was on £2.5 million a year with his former employers, and he's now obviously looking for apparently somewhere in the region of £5 million in salary for his next appointment. So, you know, realistically, have Rangers got that kind of money? Now, I understand and I get that, you know, to get a top quality manager, you have to pay the money. You have to go out and actually, you know, spend big if you're going to get a top quality manager or a top quality coach. I get that, but it's about managing expectancy, guys. And like I said, I would love someone like Bielsa or Gallardo, or, you know, or someone else like that. But realistically, like I said, Rangers haven't got that budget. They have not got the amount of money it would take to bring these guys in. Now, I might be proved, might be talking to completely out the top of my head, and you know what? Hopefully, I am, and we do go out and get someone of this talent. You know, Gallardo has managed Nacional, he's managed River Plate, he's managed at Searle in Argentina, and you know, he's got a decent managerial record. But like I said, is there an option there? Is there really the money there for Rangers to go and get someone like, you know, like Gallardo, like Bielsa? Or do we have to perhaps be more realistic? And look, Sky Sports are reporting apparently that, you know, that he's one of the three or four names that is on Rangers shortlist. And look, if Gallardo is on the shortlist, great, fantastic, and Rangers must be confident they can put the budget in place. But do we have to bring an element of realism to this debate? We have to bring an element of what can we realistically get. Now, look, Kevin Muscat is someone who will obviously cost the earth, and you know, has done a decent job where he's been. And could he have the same success that Postecoglou had at Celtic? You know, that's a possibility. You know, other names that have been linked just recently, the Bodo Glimt manager, Kjetil Knutsen, but you know, there's a lot of Rangers fans think that Knutsen is someone that, you know, could be a really good appointment for us. But the question mark I would put over Knutsen is, does he bring enough experience to the club? Does he bring enough knowledge? You know, this guy's only managed in Norway. You know, he's got a very narrow experience level. And look, I'm not saying for a minute that the SPFL is unbelievably a tough league and a strong league. Of course it isn't. And I think, you know, again, that's something that could be putting top managers off. You know, Graham Potter turned down Rangers allegedly because, look, the SPFL, with the best one in the world, is not a draw for anyone anymore. You know, the fact that you're going to play Motherwell perhaps 4 times a year, and you're going to play Hearts and Hibs 4 times a year, and you're going to play St Mirren 4 times a year is not really a massive pull. And you know, that's a debate for another day as to how the league is made up and how we can perhaps change the league structure and strengthen the league structure. But my question over Knutsen is that, you know, I've got no doubts that he is a very fine manager, and you know, he's done a good job with Bodo Glimt. But my question mark over him is very much around, what does he bring to the job? You know, is he someone who is going to bring enough knowledge, enough experience to actually, you know, take this club on? And this is like I said, this is a massive appointment for Rangers. And I know we said that with the Beale appointment, and we said that with the GVB appointment, but this is even bigger. There is a real danger of us becoming the Espanyol of Glasgow if we don't get this right. And like I said, you look back across Knutson's managerial career, he's managed Hovding, Vlaardingen, Asane, and Bodo Glimt. You know, there isn't, like I said, a massive experience there outside of Norway. So that is a concern for me. Another couple of names that have obviously been mentioned today was this man here, and this was one that certainly worries me, and I certainly hope this is not true. Look, I don't want to be horrible. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to talk down. Talk down about people before they've even, you know, had an opportunity to come in and be a manager. But Frank Lampard for me is just not the answer. And I genuinely hope that Frank Lampard is not on, he looks so much like his dad there, on the actual shortlist. You know, Lampard did an okay job with Derby. He did an average job with Chelsea first time round. You know, he got them to the Champions League with an embargoed squad, but you know, he went to Everton. He nearly got Everton relegated, which I know is not much of an achievement these days because everyone nearly gets Everton relegated. He then went back to Chelsea and was an absolute disaster there. I think he won one of the remaining games in the season. He's not Steven Gerrard. You know, he's not got that ability. He comes with a lot of baggage that Gerrard didn't come with when he was appointed Rangers manager. And my worry is that someone on the board thinking that Lampard could be another Gerrard style appointment, that, you know, bringing in Frank Lampard could be another, you know, catalyst to 56 in the same way that Gerrard was the catalyst to 55. For me, Lampard is, having seen him manage here in England, he's not the answer. He doesn't impress me as a manager. He just doesn't have tactical awareness, the organisation, and he appears to lose the dressing room, you know, looking at what was, I mean, and that, look, I get that Chelsea are a basket case of a club and are an exceptionally hard club to manage, but look, for me, Lampard is a big no. The other name that I've seen mentioned today is Chris Wilder, the former Sheffield United, Watford, Middlesbrough manager. And again, this one's a massive, huge no for me. Wilder was sacked as Middlesbrough manager because he couldn't, you know, get a Middlesbrough team to perform in the Championship, a same team that then Michael Carrick then took to the playoffs. Chris Wilder also was at Watford as well and didn't do a particularly brilliant job with them. You know, certainly stabilised them. He did a good job for Sheffield United. He got them into the Premier League. He kept them in the Premier League for a season. But again, it's a worrying name that's been linked. It's a worrying name. And again, Wilder and Lampard are not to. And I know I've talked about managing expectancy and a realism as to who we can get, but you've got to also look in terms of saying it's realism, it's expectation, it's thinking what we've got an actual budget for and who we can actually attract to Rangers. But it's also looking at their past track records. And look, a mate of mine once said there's no CVs in football, or doesn't seem to be, with certain managers getting appointed, you know, millions of times, no matter how badly they do. But I certainly hope that, you know, that Bennett, Bisgrove, or whoever's, you know, behind this next appointment looks at the track records of people like Chris Wilder, people like Frank Lampard, and just goes, actually, no, just no. You know, it's not for us. It's not the right appointment for us. Something does need to be done sooner rather than later, and preferably, you know, as I was saying on Heart and Hand, you know, that we need a manager in place for after the international break, you know, who can come in during the international break, because it gives him time to work with the players that are here to develop an understanding, and the players that are coming back from injury, which allegedly there are loads coming back from injury, if you believe what Michael Beale said before he left. But look, it is, I think, going to come down to us managing expectations and looking at what we can realistically get. Like I said, Frank Lampard, it does worry me. I mean, 42% win percentage at Derby, 52% at Chelsea first time round, 27% at Everton, and then 9.1% at Everton at Chelsea the second time round. Again, it's not the best of records, is it? It does slightly worry me that we are even contemplating, well, allegedly. And I know a lot of it is media guff, a lot of it is media clickbait, because at this moment in time, Rangers are looking for a manager. Therefore, every man, his dog, his goldfish, his best friend's sister's hamster is going to be linked with this job. We know it. We know it's a big job. We know it's a huge job, and whoever the next manager is, they've got to come in and they've got to hit the ground running. They've got to establish themselves. They've got to get the respect of the players, but they've got to most and foremost get these players to love playing for Rangers again, to actually love going out there on the field, to actually entertain, to have some passion and fight and heart. And I certainly hope that the next manager is someone who comes in with courage, with a backbone to take decisions and to take tough decisions. And if that means, stripping James Tavernier of the captaincy because he's not a captain, and he really isn't a captain. You need a brave man. You need someone who's going to come in and not be afraid to upset the apple cart. Because look, what we're doing at this moment in time isn't working. Goldson and Tav and Barisic have been fantastic servants for this club, but is it that they've got so used to losing and finishing second that we make tough decisions when it comes to them? And it could well be that. So the next manager who comes in has to be tough, has to be ready to take a risk, and has to be ready to, to make those tough decisions. And something that Michael Beale seemingly was not able to do, something that he was seemingly stuck in the past when it came to those players. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the stories this morning. Let me know which managers you like. Let me know what you think of what I've had to say as well. Always value any feedback as well. Look, I just try to be realistic. I get accused of being negative. I'm just reporting it as it is. I'm just telling the story as it is at this moment in time, that where we are, the way the fans, and I'm trying to reflect on how the fans are feeling and what I'm being told to what you're saying in comments. I got a bit of a war of words yesterday with the Rangers fan on Instagram, and I ended up blocking him because he was insulting and rude. And look, I'm quite happy to take feedback as long as it's constructive, as long as it's, it's feedback and it's a disagreement on a constructive level. But when you're going to come on and slag me off and say I'm negative, I'm only in this to line my own pockets, etc., which is just bang out of order. It's not why I'm in this. I love talking about the club. I'm a Rangers fan. I have been since 86, 87. Don't come in and insult me. Just don't do it. Have a constructive argument, fine. I'm all up for that. But you come in and you question and you rude, I'm going to block you, because look, I don't need it at the end of the day. And that's not why I do this. If you want to be a troll, go somewhere else. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, please hit that sub, ring that notification bell. And there's always two things I need you to do for me. Number one is smash the like. And number two, remember, we are the people.